If you are looking for an origin story that, frankly, almost defies belief, one of the most consequential transformations in American history, you really need to sit down for this.
It's an incredible story.
Our mission today is to do a deep dive into the life of Oprah Winfrey. Specifically, we want to figure out how someone who experienced absolute systemic abandonment.
An unwanted burden, really.
Exactly. How did that person become a singular cultural system unto herself?
It's the ultimate lesson in turning pain into, well, into equity. And you have to start where the story began. Segregated, Cadusco, Mississippi, in 1954.
That date alone, 1954.
It tells you everything you need to know about the world she was born into. The height of racial oppression, economic deprivation.
And just 1 year before Rosa Parks makes her stand, it's Riley.
Yeah.
And here's the first detail, the piece of trivia that kind of sets the stage for a life of accident and reinvention. Her name.
Right. Her name wasn't supposed to be Oprah.
No.
It was intended to be Orpah, yeah, after the biblical figure in the Book of Ruth.
Okay, Orpah.
But family members, the community, they just consistently mispronounced it. So Orpah became Oprah. A life that was supposed to go one way immediately veered onto another path.
Okay, let's unpack this. Those earliest, most brutal, formative years. She's on her grandmother Hattie Mae Lee's farm.
An impoverished farm.
And the contrast in just those first 6 years it's honestly shocking.
It's the crucible that forged her. I mean, on one hand, you have just desperate poverty.
What are we talking about here? The source material mentions she was dressed in sacks.
Literally. Dresses fashioned from potato sacks, which you can imagine led to just relentless mockery from the other kids. That shame. It left a permanent mark.
But then there's this other side, the intellectual life.
That's the contrast. Her grandmother, Hattie Mae, despite being so harsh, taught her to read before she was 3 years old.
Before 3. That's incredible.
And by age 5, that literacy turns into performance. She's reciting Bible verses, poetry in church.
Earning the nickname the Little Preacher.
Exactly. And it's right there on that stage that she discovers this truly affirming sensation for the first time in her life. The intoxicating validation of audience approval.
The approval she was getting nowhere else.
Nowhere.
Oh.
But we can't gloss over the brutality that came with that upbringing.
No, we absolutely can.
Hattie Mae was a firm believer in spare the rod and spoil the child. The beatings were so severe that welts would sometimes bleed through her clothes.
And that would often trigger more punishment.
Yeah. Oprah herself later said that, by today's standards, she would have been required to report her own family for child abuse.
It just paints this picture of profound loneliness, a total deprivation of affection. So if you're that child unwanted, mocked, physically abused, how do you possibly grow up to connect with millions of people?
Well, that loneliness, it creates this indelible psychological imprint. It fueled her decades-long search for approval. You see it in the struggles with weight, with self-worth. But it also fueled her greatest strength, that profound, almost magnetic empathy that allowed her to connect with millions who saw that same pain in her story. The isolation became the foundation for her vulnerability.
And that brings us to what is truly the darkest chapter. At age 6, she's sent to live with her mother in Milwaukee.
Her mother, Vernita Lee, was working these incredibly long hours as a housemaid for, I think, $50 a week.
So not a lot of supervision.
No.
Yeah.
And with that instability, the unthinkable starts to happen. A sustained campaign of sexual abuse that started when she was 9.
And lasted until she was 13.
By multiple male relatives and family acquaintances. It's just horrific.
And the trauma just culminates so dramatically when she's 14.
She became pregnant.
Yeah.
Baby boy was born prematurely and died shortly after birth.
Unimaginable.
And that grief, that desperation, it led her to run away. But the system had one last abandonment for her. She was turned away from a juvenile detention facility because it was full.
There was literally nowhere for her to go.
Nowhere.
The whole story hinges on the pivot that happens right after this. Salvation arrives in Nashville. And it wasn't soft.
No, it wasn't. Her father, Vernon Winfrey, the man she always called her father, brought her to Tennessee. And Vernon, he was a barber, active in local politics. He was the complete opposite of the instability she'd known.
He dropped the hammer down.
He did. But the currency was literacy. He understood that strict, education-focused discipline was the only way out of poverty for a black girl in the segregated South.
So this child, previously unwanted, abused,
Right.
she undergoes this dramatic transformation under his structure.
A total transformation. She becomes an honor student, voted most popular girl at East Nashville High, And crucially, she joins the speech team.
Oh.
That early talent from the church. It immediately starts to pay off. She's cultivating these extraordinary oratorical abilities. She knows how to hold an audience.
And that skill launches her career shockingly early. At 17 in 1972, she's still in high school.
And she wins the Miss Black Tennessee Beauty Pageant. And the prize sponsor, a radio station, WVOL, offers her a part-time job reading the news.
So while she's still a high school student, she becomes the youngest person and the first female in that professional role.
The momentum was unstoppable. Her talent gets her a full scholarship to Tennessee State. But by 19, still a sophomore, she's the youngest person and first black female news anchor at Nashville's WLAC-TV.
So the next logical step is a bigger market.
Baltimore. WJZ-TV in 1976 to co-anchor the 6 o'clock news. They had this provocative tagline, "What's an Oprah?"
But the hard news format, it didn't fit.
It was an immediate mismatch. Her emotional, expressive style, the very thing that allowed her to connect with people, was seen as a professional liability.
Wait, so they thought it was unprofessional?
Completely. For hard news, you needed objectivity, distance. She had this warmth. So the station removed her from the anchor desk. It was a crushing setback, devastated her.
But that so-called liability
Was actually her greatest asset. A producer saw it. He recognized that her real talent was in connecting with people.
And that's the pivot that basically changed television.
Pretty much. In 1978, she's moved to co-host a local talk show, People Are Talking. And her warmth, her curiosity, everything that was suppressed on the news desk, it finally flourished.
So she was learning how to build that audience connection without the filter of objective journalism.
Exactly. And that apprenticeship prepared her for the ultimate challenge. Chicago, late 1983. She was hired to revitalize the struggling show AM Chicago.
And her specific mission was to take on the reigning king, Phil Donahue.
Donahue's show was all about intellectual debate, confrontation. Oprah shows up in January 1984 and replaces that with emotional intimacy, vulnerability. The results were stunning.
Within 1 month, she's in a ratings dead heat with him.
And by the end of February sweeps, she had definitively surpassed him. She dethroned the king of talk. Not with the sensationalism, which was where 80s talk TV was going.
Well, with empathy.
With genuine connection. This wasn't just a ratings upset. It was the blueprint for a whole new genre.
And that momentum, of course, takes her straight to Hollywood.
Which solidifies everything on a national scale. The pivotal moment is the 1985 film The Color Purple. The producer, Quincy Jones, insisted on casting her as Sophia, even though she had no acting experience.
And that role, which required her to channel all her own experiences of abuse and resilience,
earned her Academy Award and Golden Globe nominations. This was validation on the biggest stage imaginable.
Which leads directly to the national launch, September 8, 1986, The Oprah Winfrey Show.
It launches in 138 markets, and the speed of her dominance was just breathtaking.
It hit #1 in major cities in 4 weeks.
And by February of 87, it was the #1 syndicated talk show in the country. She made something like $11 or $12 million in that first season alone.
But the real lesson here, the thing we need to focus on in this deep dive, is that she didn't just chase fame, she chased equity. She became a mogul.
This is the revolutionary part, the ownership strategy.
Oh.
In 1986, she establishes Harpo Productions, Oprah, spelled backward. But the real game changer was October 1988.
Okay, what happened then?
Harpo assumes full ownership and production of the show.
Full ownership.
She became the first woman in American history to own and produce her own talk show. She was only the third woman ever, after Mary Pickford and Lucille Ball, to own a major production company, and the first African-American.
So she secured complete creative control over her image, her narrative, everything.
Everything. And that control led to things like the massive cultural impact of Oprah's book club, which launched in '96.
To get the whole country reading again.
And it wasn't just influence. It was quantifiable market control.
Yeah.
I mean, take Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye.
Yeah.
It sold maybe 2,000 copies when it was first published in 1970. She features it in the book club in the year 2000. It then sells 800,000 copies.
Wow. That is culture defining the market.
Exactly. And tied to that power is her philanthropy. The Angel Network, raising over $80 million with 100% of donations going to charity. And the $40 million Leadership Academy for Girls in South Africa.
She was building institutions rooted in education, just like her father Vernon had imposed on her.
It's an investment in systemic change, not just charity.
Now, her entire career was built on trust and authenticity, which faced a huge crisis with the James Frey scandal in 2006.
Oh, this was the ultimate test of her brand's credibility. Frey had fabricated huge parts of his memoir, a million little pieces, which she had championed.
And the media pressure was intense.
So she invites him back on the show.
And she publicly confronts him. She says, I feel duped, but more importantly, I feel that you betrayed millions of readers.
And you have to ask, right, was that confrontation really about the readers? Or was it a calculated move to restore the single most valuable asset she owned? Her brand's credibility.
It had to be a bit of both.
It was a necessary performance of accountability. She had to protect that relationship of trust she'd spent 2 decades building.
And speaking of personal vulnerability, we have to talk about her most persistent struggle, her relationship with weight, with body image.
For 25 years, the media just ridiculed her. And she internalized it, She believed her struggle was a moral failing, a lack of willpower. She said it occupied 5 decades of her brain space.
But she maintained that public vulnerability right up to the present.
She did. In December 2023, she publicly revealed she uses a weight loss medication. She called it a relief, a redemption, finally acknowledging the role of genetics and brain chemistry.
It was one final, powerful act of turning a deep personal shame into a shared public experience.
Yeah.
So if we connect all of this to the bigger picture, her historical significance, it's really about the transformation of media.
Absolutely. She revolutionized journalism. She tore down that wall between reporter and subject. She validated emotional truth as a legitimate form of knowledge.
And when she shared her own history of sexual abuse.
She gave unprecedented permission for millions of survivors to share their stories. She normalized conversations about trauma, addiction, mental health right in the mainstream.
And her political influence was, well, it was quantifiable.
Enormous. Economists calculated that her endorsement of Barack Obama before the 2008 primary generated over 1 million votes for him. Just in the primary, she became an undeniable force.
It all comes back to the thesis, really. Oprah weaponized vulnerability. She transformed that unwanted child in potato sack dresses into an icon of possibility and, importantly, of control.
Her whole philosophy is summed up in her 2018 Golden Globe speech. She said, "Speaking your truth is the most powerful tool we all have."
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener, as you think about her blueprint.
Right. Given what we know about her political influence and her pivot from, the kind of trash TV of the 80s to this uplifting therapeutic content, what is the real difference between a celebrity whose endorsements just drive sales and a media figure who actually defines culture itself?
That's a great question.
And what does her blueprint leveraging talent into actual ownership, becoming the first woman to own and produce her own show? What does that mean for the next generation of creators building their brands today?
It's really a question of influence versus true systemic control.
Thank you for watching. Support us. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.